Hey y'all, it's your girl Cassandra with Pecan Porch Boutique. I have two projects for you in this video and I hope you like them. The first one was free, y'all. We're going to start with this cute little plant stand that I got for free. And it just needed a little bit of love. So take a look. It's just kind of, it's solid wood, but it had the cutest feet on it. I just loved it. And a lady was getting rid of her stash in the town about 5 minutes from me. And so I went and picked it up, of course. My sister always says I should let free be. Well, I'm going to let it be with me. I mean, who passes up something free? So anyway, we're going to be working first on this little plant stand, y'all. So I started out by painting it with some DIY White Swan mixed with Saltwash. And I wanted to do this with Saltwash, and I gave it a really pretty heavy texture because whoever had it, I guess maybe it had some imperfections or the feet broke off or something, and they just really went to town on putting some glue on it. So anyway, I'm going to mix up my Saltwash, and I want to get it really thick to the consistency to where it won't, fall off of my stirring stick. And then I'm going to take a big brush and I'm just going to start stippling it on. The combination of Saltwash and this stippling motion is going to help cover up any imperfections that there might be. They won't show through. I have to say though that I did not expect to have bleed through, and I did have a little bit of bleed through on the top and right along the bottom. So you'll see here as I'm stippling, I kind of left open that little area right below the slim part of the plant stand and the round part at the bottom, because I had an idea for that and it didn't pan out, or it just went away in my head. So later on you'll see that I stipple that part too. So I'm going to stipple everything, the feet, the lower part, the slender part, all the way up to the top, but not the top itself. All right, time for a few IOD molds. And y'all, the Viridis mold has quickly become my favorite go-to for leaves. I don't know, there's something about this leaves mold that I just love. So I'm going to be casting some of the leaves from the Viridis mold, and then I'm going to be casting a fern and some of the little critters from the Dewdrop Pond mold as well. And so here I am now. I'm just going to take my baking powder and I am just going to, dust off my mold so that my clay won't stick. I'm actually using DOS clay again this time. And I'm just going to roll out my clay, kind of squish it around in my hand. And then I'm just going to get it deep down into my mold, and then I'm just going to start taking my thumbs and peeling back. The one good thing about the IOD molds is they have that micro rim, so that even though I end up putting way too much clay in my mold and I have to kind of figure my way out, once you pull it back to that micro rim, you can kind of figure out, what the actual image was after that. So once I do that, then I just kind of fold it over and I let gravity kind of pull the mold out by itself. And it came out really pretty. So from this mold, the Dewdrop Pond mold, I ended up casting a couple of those ferns that are so pretty on this mold. And I did a casting of the frog, a snail, there was a little gecko. I also did castings of the hummingbird and the dragonfly. So I did all of those castings from the Dewdrop Pond mold. And I'm going to be putting these down around the very base of this plant stand. And so I'm just going to be using my Type Bond Quick and Thick. And you guys can see I'm almost out. And I was like tapping that. I was tapping that bottle to try to get every bit I could. And then I'm just going to lay them around on that bottom base and just making sure that I really kind of tap them down really good, because there's kind of like a bi-level area there because it has a rim. It has an upper rim. So that's what I'm doing here, just making sure I get my glue all the way out to the ends and then just kind of laying it around the bottom of the plant stand. But I forgot to say that that's just for, that is not for the hummingbird and the dragonfly. They are actually going up around the slender part of the plant stand, not at the bottom. So once I get all my molds glued on down and around this plant stand, I'm going to actually be using kind of two versions of purple. And these are all DIY paints. This one, this darker purple, is called Cherry Picked. And I'm going to be using that kind of on the bottom, and I'm going to kind of bring it up the slender part. But then I'm going to bring it up just halfway, and then from that part, from the halfway mark of the slender part upward, I'm going to be using this one, and this is French Millinery. And so I'm going to blend those two together. And you're going to see that I start out thinking that I could blend with a brush. And I'm like, girl, you know you cannot blend with a brush. And I had to go back and get my little woolly and use that to blend the two colors together. But you'll see that in a moment. Here we go, y'all. This is my comedy moment, because honestly, I have never learned to really blend with a brush. I mean, I can do it a little bit, but you can see, look at this. I mean, I really can't blend that well with a brush, but I can blend with my little woolly. And so I added some more of the Cherry Picked, a fresh coat around there. And then I came back over the top of that and added a fresh coat of the French Millinery. And then I got out my little woolly and I spritzed it with water. And then I started to mesh those two together. And that gave me the blend that I was looking for. Oh, and if you see something moving under my table back there in the background, my sister was down here this weekend, and so those are her feet that you see moving. She was doing some crafting over at the table, so just so you know. I'm going to take just a little piece of sandpaper now, and I'm going to do some distressing and just kind of distress back some of that color and kind of bring back some of that white salt wash in the background just to distress this up a little. And I'm just going to go all around, just doing distressing here and there. Nothing too stringent, but just wanted to bring back a little bit of that white. So since this is a plant stand, I am going to be using IOD's stamp called Flora and Vine. And that is one of the newest stamps from this spring-summer 2025. So it's a new stamp. I've never used it before. And if you get a new stamp, the first thing you want to do is just take your sandpaper and just kind of rub over it. I kind of go in all different directions, and I just kind of scuff it up a little bit. That way it sticks better to your surface. So I'm just going to be using this one vine, and I'm going to be using IOD's green ink, and I am just going to be inking up the vine, and I'm going to start from the bottom, and I'm just going to kind of run it up the length of the plant stand, and I'll just kind of be adding to it just to kind of make it as long, these long viney vines that go from bottom to top. And it was a little bit challenging just because, it's kind of hard to stamp on this surface while it's standing up. But I just kind of used all of my fingers, particularly my thumb, to hold it down in place, and then kind of run my fingers up the vine, and just to kind of make contact with the surface everywhere that I could. And actually it came out pretty good. Instead of using my thin mount though, I just used the plastic that came off of the stamp itself, because it seemed to be a little bit more pliable and a little bit easier to kind of get over these the parts of this plant stand that kind of go in and out. Once I get my vines all on, the next step is going to be to dry brush my molds. So I'm just going to start dry brushing my leaves. I added a little frog, a snail, my little hummingbird. I'm just going to go over and dry brush all of those molds now to kind of make them stand out from that cherry-picked color at the bottom, and that French millinery along the vertical surface. So that's what you see me doing here. I'm just kind of taking a little bit of paint on my brush, offloading it, and running it over the tops of my molds. Okay, y'all, this is the first time that I have tried the gilded transfers. And it's just so strange that I wouldn't try these because, they're gold. And if you guys have followed me for any length of time, y'all know how much I love gold. But this one is called Emporium. And I love this transfer, y'all. It has script in it. It has florals in it. It is really pretty. I'm going to be using this particular one, this sheet, that kind of has flowers to go with the whole plant stand, theme on the very top. Now, the one thing I learned about using this particular type of transfer is you do not have to push down hard at all. That was one of the mistakes that I made because it did pull off a little bit of paint from the top, but I'm okay with that. y'all know me. I'm not a perfectionist at all. As a matter of fact, I'm a perfectionist. I don't do perfection. So I kind of cut it a little bit to fit, so I wouldn't have that extra hanging off. And then once you peel it off, it sticks really instantly, like really well. And then you just start to transfer just like you would the regular transfers, except you do not need to put as much pressure on it, which I think is what I did. But it really did transfer really well. And actually, in the end, it came out really pretty. So once I got it all transferred on, I added a little bit of a flower from the Saint Germain transfer, and then I was done with this free piece. And I really love the way it turned out, y'all. Y'all can tell me what you think, because just in a minute, we're going to be taking a look back. This is what it looked like when we started, and then we can take a look forward. I love how this turned out. I really do. I love the colors. I love that gold foil transfer at the top. So I think it turned out really pretty, and I hope you do too. For project number 2, my sister actually got me this little half moon table from a garage sale. I think she paid $5 for it, something like that. And it's a blank slate, y'all. And y'all know how much I love a blank slate. So I am going to start out just by painting the legs of this in DIY's Prom Queen. This is my first time using this color, y'all. It's kind of a light blue, maybe like a baby blue. And it was really pretty. I loved it. So I am going to give all the legs this color. I am going to paint underneath the table the same color, and along the back side of the table with this Prom Queen color. And you'll see as I do it in fast motion that my light really wasn't too happy about the way that I was moving around, so you can't see the color, but you can hear, and it's a really pretty soft blue. For the top and the lower shelf, I am going to be using vintage linen. And it is kind of a really pretty, it's not a bright white, just kind of a creamy white color. You maybe can see on camera the little bit of difference that it makes from the white that it already was. And I love vintage linen. And so I'm going to be doing just kind of my brush in different directions, just to kind of catch a little bit and create a little bit of texture. Although you'll see that we're going to be using another technique to create texture coming up. Okay, y'all, I am finally going to try the tissue paper texture technique. And I've seen other creators do it, and I have never done it. But I'm just taking some tissue paper, and I'm crunching it up, balling it up to create a wrinkled paper. And then I'm going to take it, and I am going to use the same process that I would use if I were decoupaging something on, although I'm not being nearly as picky as I would be if I were decoupaging. And I'm just going to lay this crinkled paper down, or decoupage it down onto both the top shelf, or the top of the table, and the lower shelf of the table. And then I'm just going to take my fingers. I'm using DIY's Big Top. And once I get that on there, I'm just going to lay the paper back down. I'm just going to take my hand and just kind of lightly kind of move the paper around a little bit and smooth it out, but not too much because I still want that texture, those cracks that the tissue paper is creating. So I'm just going to keep laying down my big top, and I'm just going to keep laying my paper into it, moving my hand around very softly, not hard, because again, I don't want to iron out the wrinkles. That I want to keep those. So just softly laying down the paper, smoothing it down with my hands, and then I'm going to just tear it off and patch it into places that it didn't get to, and then I will go back over the edges with my fingers once it's dry and really clean those up by peeling off the little bits of extra. Once I get it all patched in to all of the places that it needs to go, then I'm just going to do another coat of the big top over the top of it and leave it to dry. Now that my tissue paper is all dry, I'm going to come back in now and I am going to use my very favorite stamp, y'all. This is the Kindest Regards stamp by IOD. I love this stamp. It makes such a beautiful background stamp. You cannot go wrong with Kindest Regards. So I'm going to be using IOD's Stone Gray ink this time instead of black because I didn't want anything too stark. So the Stone Gray is just a little bit softer. And so I'm just going to ink up my stamp and then I'm going to press it down and I'm going to put it all over the top and the bottom of these two shelves. And then I am going to, I'm not really worried about them overlapping because I'm going to be using a transfer on top. So I'm just going to kind of stamp them up and kind of put them as close together as I can over both the top and the bottom shelf. And if you guys are interested in any of the products that I'm using today to create your own masterpiece, you can find those on my website at www.pecanporchboutique.com. So now I'm going to be using IOD's typesetting stamp. This is one of the first letter stamps I think that IOD had. It's a very old stamp. It's been around a long time. It has both uppercase and lowercase letters. So as a tribute to my very favorite stamp in the whole wide world, kindest regards, I am going to be spelling out the word kindest regards and adding them to the curved section of this table. Kindest on one side, regards on the other. And so here I am just laying out my letters backwards. I'm using the lowercase because the uppercase they were too big. So I'm using the lowercase, and I'm going to stamp them again with the stone gray ink. And then I am just going to curve them around using my thin mat and try to get them in between the the border of this little part of the table. And I did pretty good, with kindest came out really good. I had a few issues with regards, but again, I'm a perfectionist, don't forget. So it was okay. It was good enough for me. And so it actually turned out pretty good. All right, now the next step we're going to do is I'm going to be using some of the transfers from IOD's Saint Germain transfer. And this was from spring 2025 as well. And it's such a pretty transfer, y'all. It has all of these pretty little florals on it. You even get a couple butterflies in this transfer. You really get a lot. And there's space so that you can really cut them up and use them on small surfaces. But I'm going to be using these two kind of larger pieces in this transfer. The same. You get two of these in the transfer. And I'm going to be using one on the top and one on the bottom. So my favorite way to transfer is to lay my transfer down once I peel it away from the backing sheet. Take my transfer stick and go all over it to make sure it is adhered well. Once that's done, now I can start lifting that plastic and actually burnishing down my transfer as I lift. Now, you don't want to lift too far ahead of yourself because I've done that before. And then my transfer actually comes up and gets wrinkled under there and distorts the image. But being slow with your transferring is probably one of the best things that you can do. Go slowly. All right, y'all, we are definitely at the last step now. Now it's time for some wax. I'm going to be using DIY's clear wax and DIY's dark wax. And the whole point of using the wax instead of a top coat is so that we can really see those wrinkles from that tissue paper and how that dark wax gets trapped in between there and really gives this really pretty texture. So I'm going to start out by doing the whole top of this shelf of this table with the clear wax. The clear wax is really good when you're using colored waxes because it acts as an eraser and it helps you to control the other colored waxes. So once I get the clear wax on, I'm not going to buff it off. I'm just going to then add my dark wax right over the clear wax. I'm just going to kind of mix them together. Get it all over there. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it is really picking up the crinkles of that tissue paper. And then once I get it all on there, then I'm going to take my shop cloth and I'm just going to start rubbing it back. And the good thing about using clear wax with your colored waxes is that it acts like an eraser, a controller. So if you get it too dark and too muddy, you just take your clear wax again and you go back over it and then buff it out and it will tame down that muddy look. So you can kind of go back and forth and do this as much as you like until you get the look that you like. All right, y'all, let's take a look back at this little plain Jane table. And let's take a look at how far it has come. I really love how this turned out, y'all, and I hope you do too. I love the kind disregard words on the front, the transfer, the tissue paper. I love the prom queen blue legs. I think it turned out really, really pretty. I really appreciate you guys' support for watching my videos. I would really appreciate it too if you would give me a thumbs up, if you would share it out, if you know someone you think might be interested, if you would leave me a comment, and even if you might decide to subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate that as well. Thank you guys so much, and until next time, don't forget to bud, bloom, and be unique. Bye for now.